really wanting to give you a chance to talk to us. I mean, we could keep going, as you see. We're very passionate about this, and we have done a lot of work to try to put together the information we think is valuable. But before we go any further, I want to stop and see if there are questions that you have that we can make sure to answer.
What is the minimum time slot that you can use into the classroom? Like, what minutes?
It can be as little or as great as you want it to be. You can do it for 30 seconds, 60 seconds, whatever it works. Sometimes teachers use it at transition times when the students are coming in, like when we had the music on. And so they kind of have the students sit for a minute or two till they get acclimated to the room, breathe for a little while. Some teachers are doing it in the middle of the class. Some teachers do it when they feel they're kind of losing the focus of the group. The class is starting, you know, that feeling where you can see everybody is doing something else, to bring them back. So you might say, okay, everybody put down your pens, close your laptops. I just want your attention. And close your eyes, and we're just going to breathe for the next minute or two. We're going to breathe and focus on what you're feeling right now. And it might be 60 seconds. Sometimes I find I start out with my students in the morning and I tell them, okay, we're going to do mindfulness for a minute or two. And the next thing, you know, get the music on and we're breathing, and I look up, oh my goodness, it's been 4 minutes. I told them it was going to be 2. But they haven't stopped me. So it really can be as little or as long. We have teachers we have a 7th grade teacher who does visualizations, where she takes her students and she says, we're going on a trip. So they close their eyes and she visualizes a quiet, warm place, water, sun, and she slowly walks them through an experience. And when she stops, sometimes they'll be like, can we do it a little bit longer? So when they really feel that relaxation, you can continue going. So it's your call as the mindfulness leader, or if you put a student in charge. That's another really good way to get high schoolers involved, is to ask one of them if they would like to lead it, if they would like to provide the music that you play during those couple of minutes. If there is a topic that they're interested in, heartfulness, gratefulness, focusing, attention, or if there's something that's happening that they would like everyone in the room to be thinking about that event or that person, and send a mindful thought. So giving the students the opportunity to participate, to lead. One of the other things we're looking to do as a goal is to have our high school students lead our middle school students, because we know that there's value in that too. We haven't done that yet, but that is a goal that we have. Because we also know we've had students that have left and are using it in college, so we want them to come back and share that too. Other questions? Mm-hmm.
Can you talk about the posture and like why sitting up or being more alert is better than like 2-minute nap time or that sort of thing?
When you sit with your back straight, your breathing is better, and it also keeps you more alert. If you think about it, you let them lay down. Well, if they lay forward, which most of them like to do this, well, you can't do that. Number one, it's affecting your breathing. And number two, they're going to fall asleep. And while sleep is a good thing, for mindfulness, we want them to stay somewhat alert. So you don't want them to be so comfortable, like don't let them lay on the floor. I used to teach meditation, and I'd let them take their shoes off and lay on the floor. But not for this. This is brief anyway. But your feet on the floor anchors you. So this is what I tell my students. Is they put your feet on the floor to anchor you. You're connected to the earth. You need to sit up straight so that you can breathe and get full benefit of your breathing. We typically, the general population, we use about 20% of our lung capacity, because we all tend to breathe shallow, which is not a good or healthy way. We don't get as much benefit of the oxygen we take in as we could. So you want to breathe deeply, take in as much oxygen as you can so you keep your back straight. You keep your hands occupied. You either put them on the desk or you can fold them. Because what people tend to do of nervousness is they can be very distracted. You can pick, you can sit on your hands, tap, whatever. But if you keep them occupied, it's less of a distraction. Okay? You close your eyes. Now, some people don't like that. The reason you close your eyes is to get rid of distractions. It's not because we're going to do anything while you're asleep. We're not going to do anything woo-woo to you while you're asleep or while your eyes are closed. But we want you to have as few distractions because you're focusing on the minute. You're focusing right now, what you're feeling. The breathing is really important. because again, you're getting more oxygen, it's sending oxygen out to the body. Just by deep breathing, your blood pressure immediately begins to go down. Just deep breathing. If you're sitting at a red light and you take a couple of deep breaths, you're actually lowering your blood pressure. You're lowering your heart rate. So breathing is so important just because it's important. And so for mindfulness, it's a key component. Anytime you deep breathe, you're helping your body relax and calm. Does that answer that? Okay. And then the focusing, you want to focus on right now. And that's why we say non-judgmental, because when your mind starts to wander, it's so easy to say, what's wrong with me? I can't believe I didn't do that right. Why can't I focus? There is no judgment in mindfulness. There's no right or wrong. You're just doing it now, and whatever is happening now, you're going to take the benefit from it, and that's going to be good for now. No judgment. The negative talk that we do to ourselves is brutal. So we don't want to be giving ourselves negative messages. And the focusing on the moment is hard to do. You want to think about where you went or where you're going or the next class, the next test, the homework, right now. And it takes a lot of practice, but you just keep coming back and coming back to now. That's why if you have them focus on where's the stress in your body, where do you feel the most tension? That might be all you get done in a set. Sometimes what I'll say is find the part of your body where you feel the most tension. Give it a color. Because now you're really focusing on if you got to color it. Make it smaller. Make that area smaller. So they have now focused on an area, they've given it a color, and sometimes what we'll say is, find a place in your body where you feel joy, like an emotion, or gratitude, or love, or encouragement, or pride, or what. So pick an emotion. Okay, so let's say joy. You guys do this. Joy. Where do you feel joy in your body? Identify where you feel joy. Okay. Now give it a color. So you've located it, and you've given it a color. Now I want you to be aware of that color and that location. And throughout your day today, I want you to go back and re-access that place. Access that place. That place in your body, and see the color in your mind. So throughout your day, I want you to see and feel that joy. And that's a nice way to end a class. Send them out with that kind of experience. It's concrete, it's visual, and it's something very specific they can do. Did you want to add anything to that? Any other ideas?
Well, just that one of the things I hope you heard a little bit today too, the self-compassion piece. We're so hard on ourselves. And that's one of the tenets of mindfulness that's the toughest one, I think. And we as adults are hard on ourselves, and students, children, they're hard on ourselves. They're always seeing the negative. And the way I use this bicycle wheel, but we do call it the wheel of awareness. Again, it's a Dan Siegel thing. So I shift out of it. We can shift, as Frankie said with the brain, we can shift out of a bad thought, like the one he uses, the child's trying to go to sleep and he sees the fan above his head in the ceiling fan. He thinks it's going to crash down and kill him while he's sleeping. So his father's at his side and he's trying to get him to go to sleep. So the idea is to shift out and shift to a thought, a more positive thought, like I went fishing today with my dad. My parents would never let anything hurt me. So this shifting, and it really, as we say, keep coming back to the science, it's shifting out. So not being so hard on ourselves, having self-compassion, using these exercises and these activities we've talked about today to send the thoughts out, practice the gratitude, all these things where we can make that shift from where we're stuck into something more positive. And don't think this takes time out of, what we find with our students, our population, you take a few minutes at the front end of the class to get them more available for that lesson by focusing on maybe an event, maybe something's on their mind. Let's get that out of the way, let's talk about that, let's do a minute. And then we find, as teachers, they'll say, I can't take the time, as I mentioned, too much time. That time you'll get back because they'll be more attentive. They have that, you took that exercise, you took that time to get that out of the way, and you took that time for the moment, and then you find that then they're more available for learning for that period. So that's another piece of it, that if you're hesitant because it's going to take too much time, you get it back.
Somebody had asked
Yes.
about a teacher, about how it's going to benefit you. What I wanted to tell you is one of our teachers who was a naysayer to this, but felt the peer pressure because her team members were doing it with their students. So when she got those students, they came to her room and they're like, "Why aren't you doing it?" She's like, "Okay, I'll do it." So she started doing it with her class at the beginning of each class, and a couple months later she said to us, "I feel a little bit guilty." And I'm like, "Really?" She goes, "Well, I started doing it because the kids asked for it, and they needed it to focus." She goes, "But now I'm finding that I need it,
Yeah.
and I benefit so much in between my classes by giving myself the minute or two." She said, "At the end of the day, I am not nearly as tense and exhausted." She said, "I didn't realize how I was ratcheting up each period that I taught, because," she said, "now that I'm breathing in between just for a couple minutes," she said, "I'm starting over each class." And so she said, "I'm doing it for me now, but I'm not telling them." So it can help us. I'm sorry, you had a question.
Yeah, I do have a question. I want to acknowledge first what you said at the beginning, which is there is not in mindfulness any direct connection to a spiritual system or a religious or faith values system. But I'm curious because hearing you talk about this, everything from posture to mindset, there strike me as a number of ways in which there is a connection to what happens in the prayer experience at the beginning of most of the classes at a faith-based institution like this, and whether you're aware of schools that bring mindfulness into the prayer experience that begins classes.
That's a really interesting question and point. We talked about, we're both Catholics. We went through Catholic school, our kids went through Catholic school. But we're in an independent school and we can't go that route. So I actually back away. I don't really tell people my religion. I just present we just present the science, we give them the information. We had a workshop where a teacher who came to the workshop, we asked their background. He said, "I teach in an Episcopal school and I use it in my religion class." And so that's where you weave it into the religion, see? And you guys, you have that freedom here of using it in your religion classes and using it as part of prayer. Because prayer, how nicely woven is that into mindfulness? Because really, prayer is being mindful. Okay,
In the
so
moment, yeah.
so I would, in your religion classes and in your whole
Or math class.
math, yeah. But I mean, the fact that you have that freedom here of being a religious school, and even if some of your students are not Catholic or they have to do. I know I was in Catholic schools for a long time. You have to, you go along with whatever it is, and with what you're, how you're functioning as a Catholic institution, as a Catholic school. So,
But I think it's very easy to say mindful prayer. Let's have a mindful prayer, which means that you're going to sit in a mindful body, you're going to breathe, you're going to close your eyes, and maybe even say the words of a particular prayer, or say a silent prayer, whichever. It can be mindful. It can be right now. I mean, how many of us can say a prayer from memory and not really be there when we're saying it? Because we've said it so many times for so many years, it rolls it out, and we're doing a grocery list while it's rolling out. You're like doing two things at once. So you could even use this to help them experience their prayer in a more heartful way. So let's do a mindful prayer where we focus on the words of the prayer, how we feel right now. Where does that touch you today? Maybe you say the Our Father every day and you never really think about it. Okay, today, be aware as you're saying the Our Father, where are you feeling it in your body? Just be aware. There's no right or wrong place. There's no special answer at the end. Just be aware of where you're feeling it today. It might be someplace different tomorrow. So you can very, very much, I think that the experience of prayer is about gratefulness. It's about, gratitude and love and commitment. And so all of that, is part of mindfulness. It's being aware of. You can do anything mindfully. It's about being aware in the moment. Yes?
So you mentioned a few times that the elements of mindfulness are supported by scientific research and such. In case we want to refer to it down the road, would you be able to provide the names of those studies and the organizations?
I would start with John Kabat-Zinn because he has got so much documentation and so many research studies that have been published in all of his literature. I would start with him. And then there's also Mindful Schools, has a lot of research-based, a lot of research on their website, studies that you can refer to as well.
So you've probably got like a whole bibliography.
Yes,
Right.
oh, definitely.
And our website, if you go to McLean School Mindfulness, we have tremendous resources there. Just things you can click right on and start there just looking and kind of just poking around to see. We have quite an extensive site, videos, there's all kinds of things. So I encourage you to, just do some exploring. There's lots out there.
Another strategy I use with high schoolers is I say to them, because of course it's about control, you do not have to participate when we're doing mindfulness, but you do have to cooperate. So what does that mean? That means that you can't be talking to the person next to you who's trying to do mindfulness. You can't be looking at that person because they can feel it. And when they say, what are you talking about? You know what it's like when you're and somebody's staring at you. You can feel it, right? So you have to cooperate. And typically I get a really positive response to that, like, oh, okay, you're not going to make me do it, but I'll cooperate with you and I won't talk, and I won't try to talk to anyone that is doing it. I try to get them to close their eyes, even if they're not going to do the mindful activity or breathing. Sometimes they will, sometimes they won't, but that's okay. It's quiet. It's quiet and it's sitting still. They're not tapping anything, they're not crossing. And I ask them to sit in a mindful body as well. So they're sitting. Now, you know where I'm going with this? Can you see what eventually happens? They're sitting still. They're sitting in a mindful body. They're quiet. The room is quiet. Everyone, or majority of people around them, have their eyes closed and are breathing. So what I have found happens for a lot of them is after a while, it's almost like, I might as well. I mean, I'm the only one not doing it. Why not? Okay. I mean, they don't say okay to me, but I notice that ones that have resisted it do come around. And I had one student when I was out, I said, when I came back from being out, I said, so did you guys do mindfulness without me? And they're like, oh, no, we didn't do mindfulness. And I said, oh, why didn't you do it? And they said, well, we didn't want. And then one student goes, well, I didn't do mindfulness, but I did notice that I was breathing, and I noticed that I was breathing deeper than I usually do. So I said, oh, so you were breathing deeper and you were aware of it, but you weren't doing mindfulness. So he said, oh. So I just smiled to myself and said, yes, you are. Because that's what we want them to do. We want them to breathe, get the benefit of the breath, be aware of it, and then, feel the benefit. Yes?
Could you say something about the challenge that technology, teenagers obsessed with technology is, and how that bumps up against mindfulness?
It takes them completely out of themselves. I mean, they are so unaware because they're looking at the screen. The screen takes you away from yourself.
Sometimes I think 20 hours a day. I have a 12th grade daughter, I would say. It's pretty much a constant.
Constant. And the phone, and all the texting, and it's really a concern because we don't have time to just be in the moment. I actually heard a high schooler who went on a cruise over a break, and the cruise did not have Wi-Fi. And he said the first couple days he really thought he was going to die. He said, I know what withdrawal is now. Because, and you know what? I'm not so sure he wasn't going through withdrawal. But he was. All that stimulation and all that noise and all that light. By about day 3, he started to feel a little more normal. And then by the time they got back, he kind of didn't want to get off the ship. He said he really got to a point where he felt relaxed. There was no pressure. There was no stress. What's on there? Where is it? Who's next? What am I missing? Who's sending me what? What do I got to check? There was none of that because there wasn't any Wi-Fi. And he said by the time they actually got back, there was such a sense of relaxation. I really am encouraging our school to do with our students is take them on, like you guys go on retreats, or take them where there are not electronics, just so they can see that it is possible. Because in their life, there's nowhere that they don't have them. And it really interferes with this. It almost makes this a little harder for them to get in the rhythm of, because it's so different than what they're used to. But that is even more reason to do it. And I always tell our teachers, you are giving your student a gift, because they're not getting these 2 minutes anywhere else. There's no other place in their day where they are sitting quietly, they're breathing, and they are only thinking about them. There's no other time in their day. If you don't do it for them, they don't get it. And that's how I feel with my students about, there's lots of times I think, we're going to, But then I think, you know what? If they don't do it with me, or if they don't do it at school, they're not going to get it anywhere else. So I really encourage you to look at this as a gift, as something you're giving them for their day, but also a skill that you're helping them to build, that hopefully they will use. I mean, I've had students who have been in theater programs and gone off to college and said they use it before their productions, and they actually encourage their castmates to do it with them just to calm down before that curtain goes up. We have an athlete who called the athletic director. He's playing basketball now as a freshman, and he said that he gets up at 5:30 in the morning, and he's got 2 of his buddies now meeting with him at 5:30 to do mindfulness before their 6 a.m. practice. Because they're freshmen, they want to be the best. They're nervous, they're anxious, they want to perform, they want to show how good they are, but they're so nervous. So they do their mindfulness before practice to help them stay focused. So I have a couple videos that I'm not going to show you because I don't want to take your time, but I'm going to send them maybe to Amy. Or can we send them to you, send them out to your staff? And there's one with Kobe Bryant. That's about a lot of the rap singers, about how they use mindfulness. There's one with Phil Jackson, the winningest coach ever, with Oprah. If you don't like Phil Jackson, you probably like Oprah. She's interviewing him about mindfulness that he uses with the Celtics. He used Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan is now a proponent of mindfulness. And then the third one is high school students talking about how mindfulness works for them. That's a powerful one. So I'll send that to you, and you guys can look at them and see if you want to share them with your students. My seniors loved the Phil Jackson one, particularly the boys that I have, and the Kobe Bryant one too. So it gives them a perspective. And one of the things that's nice about those is that it kind of says what we said about prayer. The rappers say, a good song that you are really feeling can really be mindful. You are in the moment, you are in the music, you are feeling it, it is there, it is inside of you. So, a good song, a good dance. I mean, anybody that dances knows the energy and what you get back from the endorphins from dancing. And you got to be mindful. You got to be mindful when you're dancing. Pay attention to what you're doing. You're there. So that's a nice way to describe it to the students too. Anything that you're doing, if you stay in the moment, not out here, but what you're doing, that really can be a mindful moment. Any other questions that we can answer for you?
You guys get it?
Well, we so appreciate your time, and we appreciate your willingness to listen to all that we had to say. And I would like to offer anything in the future that you might need. If you'd like to ask us any questions, you have our email. Feel free to email either of us. If you want more information about what we do with a particular group of students, or if you have a particular issue, we're happy to share anything we have.
And we'd love to get any feedback through Amy or Melissa of if you start the process, how it's going, because we build on what we can relate to other people in other schools and other educators, build on what's happening out there with the folks down in the trenches, So anything you want to share with us, we're happy to get feedback from you as well. Thank you.